someone holding a cream pie like this, what does it make you think of? How many of you saw me lift up this pie and you wanted to see me throw it at someone? From the early days of movies, people have loved pie fights. It's funny because it's messy, but it's funny for one more reason. The people who get pies in the face usually deserve it. The innocent and the humble and the noble in movies, they never get pies. It's the proud and the arrogant, the rich and the powerful. The people who are great in their own eyes are humbled by a simple pie in the face. Proverbs 3:34 tells us that God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. God may not hit you with a pie in the face, but if you become proud, he will find a way to bring you back down to earth. Ask God to keep you humble. Ask for a teachable spirit. Make a commitment to stay humble and resist the urge for pride. Like I said, you may not get a pie in the face, but it's really not worth taking the chance.
Ooh, cream pie. Can I have some?
Today, we are going to be talking about a very special biblical character. A very important biblical character. He's my favorite biblical character ever. His name, King Nebuchadnezzar. Seriously, it was a common name back in biblical times, like James, or Mike, or Leroy. Daniel chapter 4. I, King Nebuchadnezzar, am writing this letter. I am sending it to you people from every nation and language in the whole world. May you have great success. I am pleased to tell you what has happened. The Most High God has done miraculous signs and wonders for me. Excuse me, what are you doing?
Are you really just going to read the whole story like that?
Why not?
Why not? This is the 21st century. It's the age of internet and Twitter. I agree. We all need to read this story. But if you're going to tell it to these kids, you got to put a little fire in it.
There's no fire in this story. That's back in chapter 3.
Not that fire. Come on, let's see you get into character. Make me believe you're Nebuchadnezzar.
Okay, let's go. One day, I, Nebuchadnezzar, had a dream of a mighty tree that touched the sky, underneath which all the animals of the world found food and shelter. But then, a voice from heaven declared, "Let the tree be stripped of its branches, cut down to a stump. Let it be soaked by the dew of heaven. Let him live among the animals and eat the plants of the earth, so that all will know that the Lord God is the King over all kings." I was very puzzled by this dream, so I asked Danielle what it meant, and she said,
I know what it means, but I'd rather not tell you.
"Come on, I want to know what it means."
Promise you won't get angry.
I promise.
The tree in the dream was you. You're the tree, the great king over all the earth.
Well, that's not so bad.
But the Lord has decided to strike you down and teach you a lesson about being prideful. You will live among the animals for 7 years until you proclaim that God is Lord over all.
Okay, you lost me on that last part.
It was about a year later that the king, in a fit of great pride,
I am the king of the world!
that the Lord spoke and the people drove him out into the wilderness. For 7 years, he ate grass and he dealt with the animals. His body was drenched with the dew of heaven until his hair grew like feathers of an eagle and his nails like the claws of a bird. But then the day finally came when King Nebuchadnezzar raised his voice to declare,
The Lord is the God over all. He raises up who he wishes and destroys who he pleases. No one can tell him what to do because, well, he's the one true king.
the kingdom of Babylon was restored, and Nebuchadnezzar lived the rest of his rule a wiser king, giving glory to the one true God.
Really? I can go back to being a king?
Yes, but before you do, take a bath. You stink.
What did you expect? I've been hanging out with the animals for all these years.
Last couple of weeks, we have all become a little wiser. At least I hope we have. We've learned that wisdom is more valuable than gold or silver, and that God is our main source of wisdom. We've learned that God gave us parents and teachers, pastors, and other adults to share their wisdom with us. We've also gained a bit of wisdom for dealing with sin. If sin comes your way, the wisest action is to just run. There are many lessons in wisdom we could find in the Bible. We could find wisdom to help us manage our money, or to treat others fairly, or make plans for the future wisely. But there's one piece of wisdom that's more valuable than any other to leave you with as we close this series. Stay humble. Wisdom has many benefits, and wisdom will help you live a better life. But wisdom, like all things in this world, has a trap. And with wisdom comes the temptation to become prideful. The wiser we are, or the wiser we think we are, the more likely we are to see ourselves as better than others. We start to look down on people who don't act wisely. We spout off our wisdom to others as a way to show that we're right and they're wrong. In short, we kind of act like jerks, treating others with an "I'm better than you" attitude. As the old saying goes, pride goes before the fall. And if you become prideful, you can bet that a fall is coming. It isn't good for us to think of ourselves as better than we are. So in His love, God will do what needs to be done to bring the pride back down to earth, whether you're a kid or an adult, even a king. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon knew firsthand how God could humble the proud. King Nebuchadnezzar was the greatest king to ever live. Even God had said so in a dream he once had. But when the king's pride became too great, God sent him another dream, warning the king to stay humble. Daniel interpreted the dream for this king, telling him he would be driven to madness and forced to live in the wilderness until he repented of his pride. Here's what happened to King Nebuchadnezzar. In Daniel 4:28-37, King Nebuchadnezzar thought he had a lot to be proud of. He had great power and more wealth than any king before him. But King Nebuchadnezzar was not greater than the King of Kings. God struck the king down just as he promised, and he humbled the mighty king before his people. God's not going to drive any of us into the wilderness for being prideful. At least I hope not. But God has ways of bringing us back down to earth when we get too prideful. The best way to avoid that is to stay humble. Remember who made you. Remember who gave you your wisdom. Always be humble and do not consider yourself better than others. Wisdom isn't the only thing that drives people to become prideful. We see pride in honor students and athletes and artists and musicians, just about every pursuit you can think of. Pride actually drives people to want to be their best. Pride leads to a lot of great accomplishments in a lot of walks of life. There's no problem in having some pride for your accomplishments, but as Christians, we want to remember that God is still greater. We will never be wiser than God. We'll never be smarter than God. We can always learn something new from God, from our parents, really from anyone that God brings along our path. Perhaps the best way to keep ourselves humble is to remember this. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. We will never know it all, so let's stop acting like we do. We'll never be as wise as God, so let's stop pretending we don't need Him. We should always be listening, always learning, and always willing to humble ourselves. Don't let pride hijack your wisdom. Be humble, be teachable, let God give you wisdom, and never stop learning from Him. Will you join me in prayer? God, thank you that you are willing to give wisdom to those who ask. Would you help us to remain humble as you give us that gift of wisdom? Thanks so much for being here, you guys. We'll see you next week.